All right, let's talk about picking up flight following en route, in the air. On the ground, it's pretty easy. You just get on with ground. And assuming you're not departing a Charlie, which will end up pretty much with flight following anyway when you give them your destination, unless you specifically ask for no services or no flight following. But when we're in the air, flying along like I am right now, I want to pick up flight following. So just as I always talk about a safe, proven, efficient, methodical way to transition from hand flying the plane to autopilot and vice versa in flight, there's also a safe, proven, methodical way, 1,000 feet to go. A safe, proven, methodical way.
Contact sport. Enjoy your afternoon, sir.
A safe, proven way to transition from no flight following to flight following while en route in flight. So we'll talk a little bit about how we do that, and then I'll get on with approach and I'll go ahead and do that so you'll see the process. And from that point on, I'll pretty much be on flight following all the way down to entering or in the vicinity of LA special flight rules, where actually SoCal approach don't provide flight following through that corridor. So it's when you show up to LA special flight rules on flight following, it's as if you showed up to your destination, and they will tell you radar services terminated, squawk VFR frequency change is approved. Not VFR, they'll tell you to squawk 1201 for LA special flight rules. So, but pretty much otherwise from here to my destination, in our case specifically LA special flight rules, I should be on with approach and they'll be holding my hand. So we'll talk a little bit about what information I need to gather on my end as the pilot mentally before I go ahead and contact them for flight following, as well as what that process will look like. Both what they will require or tell me and the whole exchange, so you'll be able to hear and see me do it. And it's really, really simple if you want to follow along. So let's just lean things out here. There we go. A little too much there. And let's see what that results in.
Bullet 2 on traffic northeast, 5 miles southbound, level 16.5, King Air.
Let's see what the peak TIT is. So it looks like I'm 1140. Okay, let's go to the peak. I want to be 75 degrees rich of peak, so I'm 11. There's 1580. Okay, so we'll go to 1500. And there we go. That should do. Solid. 30, 23, and 15 on the TIT, which results in 18.8 gallons an hour. Good stuff. A little bumpy here. All right. So let's talk a little bit about what information the pilot must require or gather on their end before they contact approach. So let's think about it this way. The first thing, if I want to go ahead out of the blue and get in touch with approach, the first etiquette thing is I don't want to vomit all the information on them, because he might be, think of it this way, he might be sitting there eating his spaghetti for lunch. It's a quiet day, there's no one in the area, no one's talking with him, and all of a sudden here comes 1215 Golf with this whole laundry list of information and requests, and I just spill it out on him, because he doesn't know that I'm about to contact him. So just radio etiquette wise, we want to go ahead, temperatures look good, cowl flaps are closed. We want to go ahead and give him a heads up, right? Because we're cold calling him. So we want to first just get on and say, Joshua approach, stationary 1215 Golf. That's it. And then he, whenever he gets a chance, whenever he swallows his lunch, he'll get back on and say, stationary 1215 Golf, Joshua approach, go ahead, or say request, whatever. At this point, if you think about it, he's expecting a mouthful from us, right? Because he's ready. We gave him a heads up. At this point, we need to relay to him two things. Where we're at, our position in terms of mileage from something. That something could be anything. It could be this airport, it could be this airport, it could be this airport, it could be anything. Anything that if I tell him I'm 10 miles from, in terms of like south or east or whatever, he will know where I'm at. So he'll be able to look at his radar scope and say, okay, that's pretty much who it is. And the second thing I need is my altitude. So I'll tell him, hey, yeah, we're 10 miles to the south of Trona, whatever airport I am. 8,500 feet, looking for flight following to Torrance Airport. And we are a Cessna 206 Slant Golf. So I'll give him our airplane type as well as the suffix, the equipment. At that point, he'll get back on with me and give me a squawk code, a transponder code, a beacon code. Once I'll plug that in, sometimes they ask you to ident if they're not 100% sure where you're at or which one on the radar scope is you. They'll ask you to flash your code, hit the ident button. Otherwise, within a few seconds, he should get back to me and say, 1215 Golf, radar contact 10 miles east or south or west of whatever waypoint or place, to which I will reply. And by the way, while he comes back to us with a position, he will also give us most likely an altimeter setting, which is part of the service offered with en route VFR flight following. At that point, I will say position and altitude check, meaning I will confirm that where he thinks he sees me is where I'm actually at. And believe it or not, sometimes controllers think you're someplace else or say the wrong thing. So you always want to listen to what they're saying as well and confirm. You don't just want to say position checks. And from that point on, we're pretty much on flight follow. That's it. That's all there is to it. And as I switch sectors along my route of flight to Torrance, he will tell me, he'll give me frequency change. And then he'll tell me contact SoCal approach eventually, and so on and so forth. And along the route, I will just let them check in. I'll say, hey, level 8,500, and they will give me updated altimeter settings, and eventually those are the ones I will request direct twos if I want, or VFR descent, whatever it might be. So it actually makes the flight shorter. So for instance, now I'll see if I could get direct Santa Monica through this restricted. I doubt it. I think it's hot. I see a lot of planes here, and I've seen planes around it today, but we'll ask. So I hope that all makes sense. Bear with me here as I do it. Nothing too complicated. So right now I'll figure out where I'm at in relation to something, whatever it might be. So another thing you could do is go to the nearest page right here, and you can see different airports around you. So for instance, KNID. So China Lake. Looks like China Lake is 10 to the north of me. So we are 10 to the south of China Lake at 8,500 feet, this is China Lake right there. So check it out. Here we go. First thing is I'll cold call him, and then he'll say go ahead, and I'll say we're 10 to the south of China Lake, 8,500 feet, looking for flight following to Torrance, and you'll see how it works. So here we go. Joshua approach, good afternoon. Station Air 1215 Golf.
November 1215 Golf, Joshua.
Yeah, we're approximately 10 to the south of China Lake, 8,500 feet. We're a Cessna 206 Slant Golf looking for flight following to Torrance, California. He'll give me a beacon code.
November 15 Golf, Roger, have a code for you in a moment. The Edwards altimeter 2977.
2977, thanks, 1215 Golf. So he'll give me the beacon code here in a moment, and 2977, just like we anticipated. There it is.
November 15 Golf, squawk 4747.
4747, 1215 Golf. And there we have it. In a moment, he's not done. In a moment, he'll come back to me and say, 1215 Golf, radar contact, 10 to the south of China Lake, and I will say position checks. So he's not done yet. This whole exchange is halfway through, and this is pretty much it. This is all that goes into it. So let's hope that he does that. Now that I squawked 4747, so he should see me on his radar scope.
November 15 Golf, radar contact 15 miles south of the China Lake Airport, and taking off to you, please.
Position checks and 8,500, 1215 Golf.
Roger that, and unfortunately, 2515 is hot. You have to steer clear.
Figured, thanks so much, 1215 Golf.
Well.
All right, just like we anticipated. 15 to the south of China Lake. 1215 is hot, restricted. I have to stay clear of it, just like I thought. And my position checks, and I confirm that with him. And that's all there is to it. I just picked up flight following in the air from approach control. I was polite. I didn't throw my entire laundry list of things at him, because he wasn't expecting me to call him. So I first just said 1215 Golf, and then he said go ahead, so he was ready. And I did my due diligence before calling him. The last thing you want to be is the pilot who, while their finger is on with approach, taking up frequency time, that's when they start thinking, where am I at? You don't want to do that.
November 517, go X-ray Joshua, good afternoon, Channel Lake Altimeter 2974.
You don't want to do that. You want to be the pilot who does their due diligence and homework before you even contact them. So when you contact them, you know exactly what's coming. You're ahead of the game. You know, heck, you know what they're going to tell you before you even call them, as we just saw right now. There shouldn't ever really be surprises because it's the same thing the same way every time, all the time. The same thing the same way every time, all the time. And really, that's all there is to flight following. You're flying along, you want flight following, you figure out the nearest you could go. If you don't know which approach control frequency to contact, go to the nearest airport next to you. In ForeFlight, you could scroll down, you could see approach or center, whatever frequency that is. Just plug it in. Worst comes to worst, if you get the wrong frequency, they'll just give you the right frequency for your location. And that's it. Give them a cold call. They'll get back to you, say, go ahead. You'll say, hey, I'm blah, 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 south or east or west of this airport or this lake or whatever, VOR, whatever it might be, and your altitude, type of airplane, and equipment, and looking for flight following to wherever. And they'll get back to you, give you beacon code, and sometimes ask you to ident, sometimes not. And then eventually after that, they will say, hey, radar contact, blah, 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 and then you'll just confirm that wherever they see you is indeed where you're at. So now they confirm that that's you. And they'll give you an updated altimeter setting. And throughout the route of flight, you'll get frequency changes to other controllers. You'll check in with them with your altitude and or direct if you're on a direct and you think that information will pertain to them. And that's it. You'll get altimeter settings all the way to your destination, at which point they will say, radar service is terminated, squawk VFR, frequency change is approved. And that's it. That is flight following. So in our case today, it makes sense. Why? Because I could have gotten the shortcut through the restricted if it weren't hot. So it's always good to get on with them and check. But really, once I clear the restricted, I want to go straight to Santa Monica, and I want to go through Class Charlie, Burbank Class Charlie if I have to for a shortcut. I could do that when I'm on with approach control, unless, of course, they ask me to stay clear of it. So there's some benefits to it that I could actually very much benefit from on this flight. So I hope that all makes sense. That's a little bit about flight following. There's nothing to it, really. And if you do it right, it's a piece of cake. It's a cakewalk. You could do this anywhere in the country. And that's the cool thing about being a pilot. You could be a pilot in California, you could be a pilot in New York, you could be a pilot in Seattle, and it's all the same exact way. It's like driving a car. You could drive in California, you could drive in Washington. So I hope that makes sense, and that's a little bit about picking up flight following en route. And that's that.